Prime Minister, GDP growth was 0.6% during the first quarter. Not bad, but when you take into account inflation, when you take into account population growth, GDP per capita in real terms was down 0.7%. Is this recovery real?
Well, actually, GDP per capita in the first quarter was up by about 0.4%. But let's take a step back. We've obviously got more work to do. I know that. And the country's been through a lot over the past couple of years. But I do feel that after those economic shocks, COVID, war in Ukraine, energy bills, today's figures show that the economy has real momentum. And that GDP growth that we've just seen is the joint highest growth in the G7 group of countries that we compete with, America, Japan, Germany, France, Italy. So it is positive, but I know there's more work to do, and that's why we've got to stick to our plan. Wages have been rising for 9 months in a row now ahead of prices. Energy bills have fallen by almost £1,000. Taxes are now being cut for around £900 for an average worker. So when you put all of this together, I'm confident that over time, people will start to feel the benefits of this, but I know there's more work to do.
But the size of the economy, when you take into account huge population growth and inflation, is still smaller than a year ago. That's what the ONS numbers show. You cited with respect the quarter-on-quarter figure, as you probably know. Isn't Rachel Reeves right when she says you're gaslighting the public? Because there isn't really a recovery.
No, I mean, these are the independent figures from the ONS that show we've had the joint fastest growth rate, highest growth rate in the G7 in the first quarter. Like, that's just the facts. And actually, I think it's typical of the Labour Party to just be negative, to talk down the country, to talk down the economy, and not offer anything constructive to say. Now, I've had a clear plan that I've stuck to since I became Prime Minister. I think people know me, they know they can trust me with the economy. I know the circumstances weren't easy, and my job was to put them on a better path. And actually today's figures show that we are on that better path, and the economy does have momentum. Labour opposed every decision that I took. We didn't get here by accident. Inflation didn't fall from 11% when I got this job down to 3% now, and hopefully to target in the next couple of months, according to the Bank of England governor. It didn't happen by accident. I took a bunch of decisions which the Labour Party opposed. And all they can offer is sniping from the sidelines and kind of negative talking down of the economy. And there's a real contrast for people at home I hope will notice.
You mentioned the Bank of England. The chief economist of the Bank of England, Hugh Pill, has just said that the housing crisis, the shortage of homes, is being made worse by high immigration. You'll know that the latest figures show that the UK population increased in 1 year by 1.2% because of immigration. That's 3 times the pre-pandemic average. Do you think that when immigration falls, the housing crisis will ease? Do you think high immigration is making it worse?
I do think the levels of legal migration into our country have been too high. They're not sustainable. They do put too much pressure on public services and indeed housing. And from the numbers that I inherited, we are bringing them down. I've put in place actually the most severe set of changes to migration so that we can bring those numbers down. And actually, we've got some news. Today, we're talking about the GDP figures for the first quarter. Just last week, we saw the figures for visas issued in the first quarter. And across the main visa categories, because of the decisions I've made, we've seen a 24% fall. 24% fall in the number of visas issued, and that is even before most of our changes have come into full force. So that number will keep coming down. So that should give people watching confidence that I get this, I agree with them, and I'm actually doing something about it to bring
immigration on your watch, Prime Minister, in a single year was equivalent to the population of Leeds. Doesn't that worry you?
And that's why I've taken measures to bring it down. And actually, it already has come down since I've been Prime Minister. The numbers show that it is coming down. But we've just said the first quarter of this year, one of the biggest drops in immigration that we've seen for a long time, because I've taken very significant measures. We've raised the threshold to £38,000 that someone needs to earn for them to be able to come here. We've stopped the...
So it isn't just low-skilled immigration?
No, yeah, exactly. We've stopped the abuse of our social care visa, where people were bringing multiple dependents with them who were largely not working. Our student visas, where people, again, were bringing lots of dependents with them who were not working. So we've clamped down on all of those things. We're starting to see the numbers already come down, because I agree with people that the numbers have been too high. I'm actually doing something about it, and you can see that that plan is working.
So what kind of Conservative are you, finally, Prime Minister? A lot of your party are watching, a lot of the country are watching. The tax burden is heading for 38% of GDP, as you know, a 70-year high. What should that tax burden be? What share of our economy should be taken by tax?
I think actually most fair-minded people watching will recognise that we had, a once-in-a-century pandemic and an energy bill.
33, 34%?
Oh, hang on, Liam, I'm about to get to the answer.
Yeah.
But I think actually most fair-minded people will recognise that the government rightly stepped in to support the country through that, the NHS, the vaccine rollout, furlough. And of course, some of that has to be paid, all of that ultimately has to be paid back. But what I can tell you is taxes are now coming down because I am a low tax conservative, because I believe that hard work should be
Thresholds
rewarded.
mean they're going up.
Well, if you
The
look
threshold
at,
freezing.
hang on. If you look at an average worker in this parliament on 35k, with all the changes to taxes that we've made, they are £550 less tax this year than they would have paid. That is the reality. If you look at the average tax rate for an average worker, personal taxes, now, because of the changes that we have made, it's the lowest rate that it's been in something like 50 or 70 years. So for an average worker on 35k, they are facing the lowest personal tax rate that they have faced, as I said, in something like half a century. An average worker is getting a £900 tax cut right now. So yes, the bad times are behind us. Now we're working, we're making a difference. The plan is, as you can see from today's numbers, working, right? The economy has real momentum. There's more work to do, but people are going to feel, I'm confident, every month that goes on, people will feel that much more secure about the future. They'll have more money in their bank accounts at the end of every month. And that's why it's important that we stick to our plan.
Thanks for joining us on GB News.
Thank you very much.